Okay, it's recording now. Hello, Charlene. Today we are joining by Charlene Nichols. Charlene is based out of New Jersey, and we connected as a business. Charlene runs into small business space, and we had some associations on mom and pop hub site. Charlene is a CEO of Sell Smart Not Hard, and she also runs another business, Optical Near Me, which is a revolutionary practice as well as platform for optical shops, which are small businesses around. Today we are going to talk about a few areas about Sell Smart Not Hard, Optical Near Me, and how times like COVID has resulted in some changes in businesses and small businesses, more specifically in optical and marketing area. So Charlene, I'll give you the floor. You can rerun the introduction if I missed something, but I'm very interested to kind of hear about both of these businesses you co-run, and what got you into these businesses as opposed to any other type of businesses, and what's your vision and philosophy as you're trying to run these businesses.
Oh, thank you. And the only correction I'm going to make
Sure.
is that I'm from Long Island.
Okay.
And anybody who's from Long Island knows there is a big difference from Long Island, New York, and New Jersey. Love New
Okay.
Jersey, two
Yeah.
very different places.
Yeah, I may have
Um,
I may have got the new confused on both the
that's
sides,
okay.
but
Everybody thinks we're our own little country up here. It's the Northeast.
yeah. No,
But
thank you for that correction.
thank you for this opportunity. And thank you for creating such an amazing platform. Um, you and I are not that philosophically aligned differently. In other words, you created a similar solution in a little bit of a different way, same problem.
Hmm.
And that's what attracted me to you. When I saw your Facebook ad, Mom and Pop Hub, my first thought was, oh no, somebody's going to compete with me. And then I started to dig into it and I'm like, wow, like what you've done is you've created a platform that connects all businesses. So to
Hmm.
round back to a question that you've asked me, that'll kind of give me the opportunity to answer a few questions you've asked. I'm from the eye care industry.
Right.
I started as a kid. I was in my 20s, early, just turning 20 actually. And I'd come to New York with a hope and a dream. I wanted to live the Frankie Sinatra song. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Literally, jumped in my car one day, left my home from Florida, drove to New York, had no idea what the hell I was going to do when I made it here. But I said, if old blue eyes can do it, I can do it too. And here we are, right?
Yeah.
So I took this job in the eye care industry knowing nothing about optical.
Hmm.
And I got to know the people. It was my job to service them.
Hmm.
And I fell in love with them,
Hmm.
every one of them.
Hmm.
Every month, these people would call me for optical supplies.
Okay.
So things that they would use to make your eyeglasses.
Hmm.
And you'd be shocked if you saw that list. Most of companies I worked for in this space, in the consumable space, have portfolios of products anywhere between 20 to 50,000 units of different items.
Hmm.
And that's just one segment of the industry. That's just the stuff they use to make
Hmm.
your glasses. So I got to receive a very backdoor view of the industry without being an eye care professional.
Okay.
Being the person I am, I knew that there was a lot to making glasses, not just the stuff that I was doing. So I always took it upon myself to learn. And I was one of the nosiest reps in the industry. Like I really wanted to learn what my challenges my customers were facing because I wanted to be the best at my job.
Hmm.
And my company was actually acquired by a very big company. And it
Okay.
was funny when they bought us because it was kind of like, what would they want with this little consumable company? And I was in a position to be at the front of a lot of the major initiatives that
Hmm.
this company had. And I got to see corporate America, which
Right.
I've been exposed to before.
Hmm.
And um, I guess at some point when you're a little business and you work with a company literally from their basement to millions of dollars in success, because I was there with them through every step of the way.
Right.
There's always times when you say, oh, if I was the boss, I would do this so much differently, right? And once you work for corporate America, you realize that there is an environment with
Mm-hmm.
which is created for you to succeed within.
Right.
There comes a time in your career, if you're successful enough, that you have to decide if this is your environment forever or if
Mhm.
you want a new environment.
Right.
And so I decided I wanted a new environment.
Mhm.
And it was funny because I got to challenge myself and answer the question we all get to answer for ourselves if we ever get the chance to shift from an employee to an entrepreneur, which
Right.
is, if I was the boss, what would I do differently?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I left the comfortable, cushy environment and I realized that I am now the boss of my world, I got to say, okay, Charlene, what would you like to be when you grow up?
Mm-hmm.
And I decided what I wanted to be is I wanted to be someone that helped these people that I watched for 20 something years and just loved them to death because
Right.
I knew in my heart that they were missing resources. I assumed that that was from sales because, people in the industry from the vendor side, they always complain about their customer, right?
Mm.
And they say, oh, they just don't they don't really educate themselves, or, oh, they don't really do this, or, oh, they don't really invest in themselves. So I thought, okay, maybe they're just missing the resources. So I started Sell Smart, Not Hard, simply to teach them how to sell.
Right.
And when I got at the grassroots level to build my business my way from the ground floor up, no investment, I didn't take the Shark Tank route. I took the
Mm-hmm.
good old fashioned hardcore, Steve Jobs route.
Mm-hmm.
The, route that people take when they decide, I'm not going to try to have somebody fund my dream. I want to build it.
Yeah. No, I think
And go ahead, I'm listening.
no, I think that's a interesting point, and I have observed that a lot of entrepreneurs like yourself, and even the call we had last week with a entrepreneur based out of Florida, they spoke about how they found something missing as their driving factor to something they started, and they didn't wait for that ideal environment to be created at that company. They knew that their vision was starting to get to the point that they had to take charge and take care of those people who were as passionate as them. So that certainly resonates as an overall theme that I've observed. That I think there is all these years of corporate experience which somewhere gets to you to the point where you see that opportunity not based on solely, hey, this is an investment opportunity or an area which is a market space vacant, but more of a people factor, that people are not getting what their passions are worth, and they're not perhaps feeling appreciated when they don't get the resources and appreciation from that culture and environment. So absolutely, I was just wanted to resound that one as a call out, that I've observed this as a repeated trend, that sometimes people from non-entrepreneurship side of things assume that small business owner starts things because they are interested to get rich overnight, and they are having a big opportunity which they are pursuing based on a lot of the typical business case development, like they call it in corporate side of things. But it's more of that passion and connection with humans which sort of stands out in those initial days.
I want to take a pause at what you just said. And I want anyone who is listening this, who buys anything, to understand that every industry, with the exception of a few, started from a very human need.
Mm-hmm.
When you go back to the beginning of time and you think about commerce, we think of commerce today, we think of Google, we think of Apple, we think of Amazon. These are corporations. But in the beginning, there was none of that. There were two people, each had something the other needed. In
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of time, there was no money, there was actually trade.
Yeah.
And so when you think of the if you go way back and you do your homework and you look at when the beginning of commerce started, again, not from greed, not from KPIs, not from spreadsheets, from, hey, you need to be warm and I need to eat.
Sure.
So why don't you give me some of the food from your farm that you've grown, that you've worked hard for? And
Mm,
I'll give you some of the furs from the animals that I've hunted and I've
yeah.
skinned. Like that was where this all began.
Right.
And society has put pressure on us for more and more and more stuff,
Yeah.
which has created this culture of greed. I hate to say it, it's what we're
Yeah.
in, where we
Right.
just need all this stuff. And if we learned one thing from
Yeah.
COVID,
Yeah.
we learned we don't need all this stuff.
Right.
Who's been to the mall?
Hmm.
I mean, not that I'm taking it away from the mall. The malls will have to make money too, but I,
Sure.
I made so much more money during COVID, not because I was making more, because I was spending less.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And
Uh,
we could talk for hours about that, but I want to answer the most important question you asked me, which was, how did you get to where you are right now with the optical near me piece?
yeah.
And I'll give you the short answer to that, taking you from when I decided I wanted to teach people sales to I decided I wanted to build a directory to connect the end user, the people that wear eyeglasses, to optical shops.
Hmm.
That did not just occur to me because I thought that I was going to become some rich and famous technological guru. It
Right.
happened because I realized it wasn't that they weren't trained in sales. That
Yeah.
wasn't why they weren't growing their business. It was because they created their business for the exact reason that you just mentioned. They wanted to help people.
Hmm.
And they thought if they were the best at what they did,
Hmm.
and they brought in the most beautiful product, and they really educated themselves on value, education that was given to them by corporate America, who taught
Right.
them how to sell lenses a
Mhm.
very specific way. You
Yeah.
know, it's all the resources they had, right? If
Sure.
they used the resources that were available to them
Hmm.
and just did a good job and worked every day, worked their asses off, opened their door, turned on their light, put
Yeah.
on a smile, that would be enough.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's sort of, I would say sometimes I do think the corporate culture does have that missing element of KPI spreadsheets, driving us too far away from the actual factors which matter. And I want to pivot into one area which I know you have already mentioned it, but I want to ask you more about it. I know you're in a very unique position where you're not just running your businesses, but you are also helping other optical shops nationally to have that face as well as your expertise in optical area. Um, let's talk about how has COVID been maybe for your businesses or for optical shops, and then any stories you can think of optical shops or your business during COVID, either positive, negative, doesn't really matters. And lastly, any advice for businesses. More specifically, you are an expert in optical domain. So more specifically for optical domain for times like COVID.
You know, unfortunately, there is so much in there that I could go on for hours. So, for the sake of this call, let me say that COVID meant everything for my business, because people think, oh, COVID changed everything. COVID changed everything. No, all COVID did was it illuminated everything.
Mm-hmm.
What we're experiencing right now is a futuristic insight into 10 years from now, because this is what digital disruption was doing. It was just a slow drain, but on purpose. These technology companies and these corporations, they were not ready for us to realize how screwed up everything was. And
Right.
COVID lifted the veil and made these business owners realize the very people that they've depended upon, these corporations, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get like freaking start watching my back when I walk, but I'm going to say it. These corporations they've depended on for decades,
Yeah.
we're not there for them when the
Sure.
veil of COVID lifted, which will lead me to another question you answered. I still talk to 50 to 100 eye care professionals a day, and I am inspired by these people. They are
Sure.
incredible.
Yeah.
Nobody has given them a rule book.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has given them a guideline. I mean, very little guidelines have they received, but nobody really said this is how this works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in all their social media circles. They're always asking, how do you do this? How do you do that? Nobody came to rescue them, and they put it down. They
Yeah.
came in every day. They cleaned their frames. They got everything ready. They put a smile on their face. They were there for their patients. It is absolutely incredible. If you are not supporting your local optical eye care professional, and I'm not talking about the big boys,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
talking about the
do you
shops in your
mind?
community.
Do you mind, while we are all rebels in this call? So, do you mind calling out a few big ones so that at least we know that people, sometimes I know the first call we had, you were talking a very interesting point that somebody thought a certain big player in vision space was actually a small business. Anyways, that was one of my first memories of my calls with you on how those brand names, sometimes people don't even pay attention. What is a small business optical shop versus a big one? But I'll let you continue, Trish.
Yeah. Okay. So, you know what? That's a good point. So, I will tell you that story specifically because I have been in this industry a long time. I have a very good reputation.
Yeah,
People that run some of these bigger companies are still my friends. And
yeah,
I've learned
yeah.
that you don't get anywhere in life by, especially not in business, by putting someone else down. But for
Sure,
the sake of education, I will
yeah,
tell you a story.
sure,
So I'm a champion for the local optical through and through. That
yeah,
will be on my tombstone someday. So
hmm,
when I was in a Facebook group, just kind of chatting with not opticians but end consumers, and I said, how many people shop at a local optical?
yeah,
And everybody said, "Oh, I do. I go to Lens Crafters. Oh, I do. I go to America's Best. Oh, I do. I go to this one. I go to that one." And I thought, "Oh my gosh, they think because these stores are in their community that they're locally owned and inspired."
yeah,
So I'll tell you, I'm not going to call out who I don't who I
sure,
disagree with, but I will tell you how you know if somebody is independently owned and operated. You
hmm,
ask them.
yeah. No,
And
I
and it's
think,
funny because um during COVID, I put together a virtual trade show, and I
hmm,
got together a group of independently owned optical labs.
right,
These are the labs that make the lenses that you wear, that are owned and operated here in the United States of America. Now, 10 years ago, 80% of those labs were owned by American citizens. Today,
right,
most of them have been shut down and outsourced to China because
mhm,
that's where all this money goes when you're buying your glasses. I guess these companies, they're going to take this money and invest in rebuilding the infrastructure, which usually corporate America doesn't rebuild infrastructure to empower US workers. They build infrastructure to keep their shareholders happy. And I don't need to call out any simple company. There's tons of corporations that do that. But when
yeah,
you do that, you make a sacrifice.
yeah,
So an independently owned optical professional knows you face to face.
hmm,
They invest in their education.
yeah,
They have they have the luxury of taking the time with you because they're not following a KPI that tells them in 20 minutes they've got to get you in and out that door because they've got to turn so many patients a day to put a specific profit on the books. They
mm,
do things that are completely against all reason when it comes to profit because
right,
they want you to be first. They want to do a concierge experience. And in vision, that's important
hmm,
because that 2 seconds that you've sacrificed to get another patient in that chair
yeah,
could have been the second that you uncovered something that could lead to eventual blindness for a patient.
right,
It could lead to you driving next to somebody that shouldn't be on the road because they got their prescription wrong.
yeah. No, I
So
think that,
go ahead. I'm just kind of, I wanted to just make sure, now that you're giving me this platform, that I explain this isn't just about the good versus evil or little guy versus the big guy. This is about wrong versus right. You want
right,
people having the right vision care when
hmm,
they are driving on the road with you, operating your planes, fighting your wars. Like this is what we risk when
right,
we make decisions for price when it comes to something as valuable as vision.
yeah. No, I think it's absolutely, you raise a very, like, I think you mentioned about the simple way to know if a business, and this is not just for optical shops. I have lately started doing this even for restaurants that sometimes we're not fully aware things are on Google, therefore we think it's all local. But that's a very good point. Just ask that question. And I like that point you raised about, in COVID times, you have been there for these optical shops by starting off these virtual trade shows, and the passion you're, bringing to table by recognizing that this eye care and how they invest in their own employees training and other things, those are big areas for us to kind of keep in mind, that it's not just about price shopping. It's also about making sure you are supporting somebody who is not just about money, but is giving away to their own employees at their own cost if needed. So very, very, very insightful. And I think that's an area which at times as consumers, for the ease of finding things in one click or two clicks, as well as at a very great price on all these e-commerce portals out there, we forget that element out there, that what it would be if we buy from a small business. And that's exactly where at a certain point even our platform comes into place, that we are not trying to, and I know you and I discuss a lot offline, that we're not trying to get into the space of optical or restaurants or other things. We want to make sure we make a sustainable model which gives you the face of that particular business, rather than us being the brand which grows more than that small business. So absolutely, these are great points. And I always love that you have that kind of clarity in thoughts on how you want to see a vision towards a small business future out there. Um, a few areas I'm kind of going to ask you as we kind of look into the last 5-10 minutes of this call. Do you have anything in terms of any stories you remember of a time where some form of customer service? I know you have a decades long of experience, so it's not just one, and maybe you do this every day. But I want to reflect on the importance of customer service with small businesses, and maybe more specific towards optical shops with you. How have you found, or any examples of customer service where you found the customer respecting a small business after some impeccable customer service that particular small business provided? Any example you can come up with
I
or
do. I have
remember?
a couple actually, but I just want to quickly address something you said. The virtual trade show, as well
Yeah.
as Optical Near Me, which are two very critical solutions that have been implemented by me and my team
Yeah.
during this COVID time, they
Yeah.
were in place before COVID.
Right. No, that's a
They
fair
were in
one.
place as a safety net before the digital disruption, which is what I thought was going to rock the industry to its knees.
Yeah.
Turns out COVID beat it.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely. I
that's,
think that's
I
a
just
good
want to make
call
sure
out.
I bring that up because it's something a lot of people say is you brought this to market because of COVID. I would
Yeah.
have never been able to pull this off
Right.
in 3 months. I mean, this is 2.5 years in the making.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good call out. And I think because we interacted much before the COVID even kicked in, and that's, I know these things have been existing and you have spoken about it. I personally looked at your technology where a person sitting at home can see what their glasses will look like without walking into an optical shop. And I think the overall vision and the experience, it's mobile friendly and everything. So you have a great technology which has been existing out there even before COVID kicks in. And that's where I think the overall theme you have given is, while COVID gets a perception of negative, but in terms of visionaries like yourself who have been ready for this, you found this almost like a blessing, where you were like, I told you so.
Oh, I hate to
I
say
am.
that.
Yeah, I know. It
Not
sounds
I told you so. No, not thank God now you know. So I
right.
don't want to ever say I told you so because I don't need to say that. It's
Sure.
like, as terrible as this is, it gave you time to fix this before all of your safety nets were gone.
Right. I know. I think
Um,
that's a fair point.
but I do have a story to tell you of
Yeah.
an amazing optometrist in Stockton, California.
Okay.
One of our first Optical Near Me shops,
Yeah.
Dr. Darren Lee.
Hmm.
And Dr. Darren Lee is the most amazing optometrist you will ever meet in your life. He
Okay.
has a beautiful practice.
Hmm.
He has a selfie wall and a wheel of fortune. Like he really
Hmm.
gets it. He's
Nice.
not afraid to be fun. Like he shows this cute little thing of the 101 ways you can wear your mask. Like
Yeah.
he's so midtownoptometry.com if
Mm.
you're anywhere near California.
Okay.
Now, he has patients that will drive 3 hours to see him.
Oh,
But,
wow.
but here's the problem with that. Going to your eye doctor, especially during now, you're waiting in the office. You're going into the exam room.
Yeah.
Then you're waiting after. Everything is like COVID comfortable. So you've got to make sure you're 6 feet away from people and you're, cleaning everything down. So what was already a lengthy process in buying eyewear has now gotten lengthier.
Yeah.
And what you don't want, and I just went through this today, actually. I was in the eyewear shop today and thinking about all of the gaps that exist in buying eyeglasses. You just want to get the hell out of there when you get to the end, when you're the most important part, when you're
Yeah.
picking your eyeglasses. They're on your
Right.
face. Like, you want to look awesome.
Yeah.
I would have picked anything. I
Hmm.
would have paid any amount of money to get out of there. So
Right.
when Dr. Darren Lee and I were building and shaping the experience of Optical Near Me, we decided while everyone else is racing to the bottom with cheap quality frames that all look exactly the same, we were going to go high.
Hmm.
And how we went high is we went to some of the top frame designers in the country, also independent.
Okay.
They don't make the frames in factories in mass. They make everything by hand in exquisite factories in France, in Italy, in
Hmm.
Belgium. Beautiful, beautiful handcrafted designs that are limited edition.
Okay.
And we're going to offer these on a website
Hmm.
where if you love Dr. Lee
Yeah.
and it's time for your glasses and you don't really need to come in for an eye exam, you
Hmm.
can from your home 3 hours away
Yeah.
go onto his website and
Hmm.
support him
Okay.
and try on these gorgeous couture frames virtually and
Yeah.
purchase them
Hmm.
and go to his shop to get a fit if you have specific bespoke lenses that need to be fit a certain way, because there a lot of people buy glasses online
Right.
and they don't realize that they're talking about the middleman, which is
Hmm.
my customer. That's the guy we're talking about. That's the middleman. Guess what? You need that middleman.
Yeah.
He's
I
the one
mean,
that's going to make sure your
right.
glasses fit.
Yeah.
And we have done research and we have found that 1 millimeter off in your adjustment of your frame can lead to 1 to 2 diopters of correction, which means you can't see as clearly as you could if that frame was properly fit.
Wow. No, I think that's a thing I wouldn't have ever taken that much level of, seriousness towards 1 millimeter causing the make or break situation with it. But absolutely, that's a great point, and I would love to see, and I'm sure you can send me the links to Dr. Lee's website, and we can post it as well. It's a
We're going to
great,
put him on Mom and Pop Hub, so he'll be right on there. He'll
sure,
be the first
absolutely,
optical shop on Mom and Pop Hub
yeah.
where you can buy glasses and have them delivered to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way for us to make sure that doctors like Dr. Lee, who are independent runs, are getting a mix of, you are the main center stone of Optical Near Me, driving that relationship, and somewhere in our capacity, we'll try to help to make sure that visibility exists there for both everybody concerned. Last point I would have for you. This is great, and I know both of us could go on for days if we need to, but we'll try to make sure we get back on other things over the weekend. But one of the things we constantly keep seeing in media is how the larger corporations are going ahead, and there's nothing wrong about it. They're doing their philanthropic end of supporting communities, and that's something we should always do, regardless of large or small ones. But I do think that somewhere the smaller ones also do their part in these tough times to support communities. So, do you remember any examples recently during COVID which you can say, what, yourself or any business, despite everything, still kept supporting community in this tough time?
Well, I do. And actually, one of the partners that I work with in building this whole ecosystem to support these eye care professionals, one of the consumable companies I work with, they developed and found a product designed to solve fog.
Okay.
And so what they did as an independently owned consumable company
Hmm.
is they invested and stocked up during COVID to get all of the raw materials so that they would never be out of stock of this critical product.
Oh, okay.
And then while everybody else was closed,
Hmm.
they were in their office
Hmm.
making this product and fighting and building so that when the industry came back online, not only were they able to come out, they had their best month ever in sales. So all the people were fighting to stay alive. They
Yeah.
got back up and running. And a lot of the optical shops we worked with, they were able to get patients to come to visit them that were a little afraid to come to get an eye exam because they were desperate to get something to help the fog with
Hmm.
their glasses.
Wow.
And this is where it all comes together.
Hmm.
Because this consumable company is exclusively independent, they
Yeah.
only do business exclusively with independent optical shops. And you can only get this incredible solution that right now is essential. If you want to drive around or walk around and not be blind by fog, there's only
Hmm.
one product you can get that really works, and it's this product. So
Hmm.
that's how the ecosystem kind of works,
Yeah.
where we all just support, we don't control each other, we
Right.
don't own each other, we
Right.
support each other.
Yeah. And that's, one thing which I've seen that, I think even we spoke about our mutual synergies and how, Optical Near Me and Mom and Pop Hub somewhere don't have an overlapping area. And we don't have interest, even if, we make a technology similar as the big players, we never want to, come out in any positioning where we sort of step on each other's toes, regardless of the commercial opportunities we see. And that's what we need to encourage, that kind of thing. Because at the end of the day, every single step of a customer journey has its own in-depth expertise required. And at no point, even if you hire 20, 30 people, that passion can be transferable from one person to another. So I think that's an area which I've always learned from you as well as other business owners, of how you have to have that mutual synergy of keep that chain going, and respect each other in that chain as everybody progresses to that ideal customer experience. So, Charlene, I'll probably let you get back to other things over the weekend, but this was such a wonderful opportunity to talk to you. A lot of inspiration came up in this call. I think I chose you as well as you chose us for a reason, for this particular call, because I want to reflect on how COVID has a positive aspect. And you were right in correcting me that, it's been horrible for all the deaths around the world and US. But at the same time, there is a future which has come up. And that is where I have, handpicked a few entrepreneurs like yourself who are
Thank you.
leading that kind of energy, as well as real world examples of execution, which gives hope to small business owners in such a time that things are there, and we need to keep striving, hold each other's hand, and try to come over this time by using technology or using empathy or any other means in order to see there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So,
And
great.
I just want to add something before we end, because this is very important.
Sure.
Very important. What Mom and Pop Hub has done and what Optical Near Me has done is we have uncovered hidden treasures in your community.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the people that I know, they have optical shops that are um, walking distance away from their front door, and they didn't even know they existed,
Yeah.
because they're so focused on taking care of you and
Mm-hmm.
people like you that they don't invest in $1 million marketing budgets.
Yeah.
And the only person that's truly in power to make a difference in the lives that we experience today is you as a consumer.
Mm-hmm.
The decisions that you make when you invest in a small business are
Yeah.
vital, because when you invest in a small business, even if it's costing you 10% more, you are investing in your community.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I think we focus a lot on this in these. I had been initially thinking I'll focus a lot on the business learning aspect of it for other business entrepreneurs, but you brought up a very good angle in this call where you are reflecting on just the overall consumers to think differently and
Yes.
pause and really take COVID in its light.
That's how you hack the corporate ecosystem.
Yes, absolutely. So,
Oh, did I say that? Oh, sorry.
no,
I
this is
better watch
awesome.
my back when I drive.
Yeah.
This is
Uh,
just so much fun to me, because look at us. We're like little fish swimming in a big pond. But
right.
I'll leave you with this. If we all know the movie Nemo,
Mm-hmm.
we remember that movie.
Yeah.
And in that movie, there's this really important part that a lot of people miss because they're just watching these cute little cartoons. But some of these cartoons, they have a really important story. In this movie, there is this giant net, and all these poor fish, they're about to all get killed. They're all getting those millions and millions and millions of fish getting swooped up in the net. They're all going to get killed. And here's this little Nemo with a gimpy fin at the very bottom of the net saying, hey, guys, wait a second. Let's try swimming the other way.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
Well, they found their way. I didn't complete that movie, to be honest, because that was somewhere it just got that branding of the kids side of movie. So I'm not going to be able to complete the sentence, but I'll let you complete it.
Well, what happens is all the fish start listening.
Yeah.
And they break the net.
Mm-hmm.
And they all swim free.
Yeah. That's an excellent analogy. And I think people who have seen that movie to the fullest extent for all its cinematic excellence will relate to, and that will be the punchline that I'll use for this particular one, where how Nemo-like analogies offers a customer behavior lesson
All
for
it
us.
takes is one person to believe
One person
that
to
there's
believe.
something that they can do to make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is great, Charlene. Again, thank you very much for talking to us over the weekend. I know you had to go get away a little from your family for this call, so I appreciate you giving me this time. I'll let you get back to your family and just your downtime if you have any over the weekend. But
The life of an entrepreneur, that's okay.
yeah,
It's going to be worth it in the long run, but thank you for what you're doing. I'm
absolutely.
so proud to collaborate with you. Let's make things happen. And thank you for your time as well. I'm sure you've got a busy weekend lined up also.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charlie. Take care. We'll
You got
catch
it.
up soon. Thanks.
Yeah.